Drop everything and clear those ears. It's time for the Dave and Dave Show.
Come on, Dave.
Hey, Marino, stretch it out.
Stretch it out. I haven't heard her stretch it out in a while. Maybe that's been, well, no, we did okay last week. Did okay.
2-0. Nice. 2-0 is a nice one. Yeah, bro. I think, did we finally warm up at the right spot? I mean, that's the word.
Better late than never. There's 3 games left. We could get hot. All right.
Exactly. And we did. We did a 3-0-1, and then we did a 2-0, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, but just to pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, last week we definitely had the right take on certain things. I think some of the real simple, basic approaches to, choosing in a plus minus, a zero-sum game, one team A or team B, I think it really came into play. I think you had to think, are the Washington Redskins actually going to go to the Super Bowl, or can they even be like right there at the end of a game?
Did you see this team in the Super Bowl? And we'd all answer together.
Obviously, they ain't going, and they didn't really scare anybody last week. But
do you and Eddie?
Division rivals, and they've beaten them before, and they had to have a certain level of confidence going into the game. Probably did.
But do you agree on one thing, buddy? I mean, we don't really prep for this. We both have our ideas and our picks, and then we let it ride. I mean, Daniels did not play perfect, and I know I said he needed to, and I said that Barkley could beat these guys on their own, which he did. But there were a lot of turnovers. I mean, it seemed like Washington could go toe-to-toe with these guys, but the fumbles and finally the Jason Daniels turnover, but those 2 fumbles were huge that turned into Philadelphia points, and then it just got away from them, because they were, going for broke. I just think that, that score wasn't indicative of, the fact that Washington could play with these guys. And that's going to affect, my handicapping going forward.
These super aggressive coaches, which have become, it's so common now. It's not even like they're doing anything crazy. They're actually, seems like they're going more by the book than against it. Going for it on 4th down all the time. One of the things that kills me about these guys is, I'm telling you, a basic principle in football since the 2-point conversion came back into the NFL. And this has always been the guiding principle in college and high school football. Oh, unless, you don't have a kicker at certain levels of football. Well, in the pros, in college, we're talking about kicking games that are really, for the most part, very reliable. They've made it a little tougher on the NFL, so that has also encouraged these coaches to go for 2 a little more often. Hey, if you got a great running game and you have a great run-pass option, okay, do it. But do it every time. Never kick an extra point. Because in order to get the numbers to work for you, that's how you have to do it. You can't pick and choose. Now, when they are picking and choosing, when they normally would kick an extra point, except they feel that a situation dictates that they don't, the old principle that I'm going to fall back on is this. You go for 2 when you have to. You don't go for 2 in the first quarter of a game. You don't go for 2 in the second quarter of a game like that team did the other day. Even if you make it. And, when they make it, it's like, oh, it's such a great decision. Not miss it. It comes back, and it ends up biting teams more often than not. It's the same, especially a game like that. Especially a game like most pro games these days. These teams are going to be scoring some more points. It's not like you're tying it up to to put it into overtime or something. There's no reason for going for two even in the third quarter of a football game. And I will argue this point with anybody. The old rule was you don't go for two until you have to.
Yeah, and it's kind of a momentum shift also. I mean, you drive down, you score the 6, and then the 2 doesn't happen.
I mean, the one game this year,
I feel it as a better, as a handicapper.
One of the bowl games or a playoff game, the other team returned it for points, so it ended up they scored a touchdown. They ended up getting points out of it. I said, barely better than a field goal.
That's enough to kill you.
And then you ended up letting the other guys run it back for 2.
No, I was so happy Buffalo was going for 2 and missing. And then, Mahomes, of course, made his because he's a dart thrower. He can wait, and then flick it. I will say I was happy that our predictions about their defensive coordinator for Kansas City, Spagnuolo, waiting. I said he saves these plays, and sure enough, fourth quarter, that blitz, the deciding blitz, which it shouldn't come to that, but it did. And then Andy Reid, that 3rd and 5 was still, minute 30 to go. He calls a play that you haven't seen all day, that the back, the unknown back out of the flat for 6 yards. And he has the balls enough to, not run it on the ground to keep the clock running.
His guys that they're going to do the right thing and be
his guys.
They're going to be professional football players instead of like guys who look like they never played the game before.
And expected to make those plays, and the GM constantly, year after year, it's a different Kansas City team. He retools Mahomes and with quality players. Look at that guy. What's his name? Joe Tooney. That the guy that all-pro center. He's an all-pro guard, and now he's on he's the left tackle. They're unknown receivers and backs. They just keep like the Patriots used to do. Just keep fortifying players for the playmakers to use. But I will see kudos to the GM of Philly. Obviously Barkley. Go ahead, cut my throat as a Giants fan. But their O-line, their defensive backfield, especially, a complete overhaul. And kudos to him, too. That's the reason that they're there. It's not Nick Sirianni. It's the GM getting these guys in position. And Barkley had a hell of a game, much to the chagrin of all your Giants fans. But what do you think of the spread, 1.5?
Well, since we're talking football, I mean, yeah, we had to get to this. I think most of the betting world thought they had the wrong favorite last year. I think they got the wrong favorite this year. Last year they made the Niners a favorite in the game against the Chiefs for some, to me, inexplicable reason. And even though they did have a just happy the game, they lost. Yeah, everybody, 80% of the bettors, I think, were happy to take the point or whatever it was last year. This year, I feel the same way. That this Kansas City team is just a slice below where they normally are when they've won it all. And this Eagles team looks tough. I think they have great balance. I think their defense seems to be a little bit. I'm not trying to minimize the fact that I do think that Kansas City has a good defense, although that game against Buffalo was odd and that it didn't really seem like the offenses were playing that well, but the proof is in the scoreboard. I mean, that's a lot of points.
Yes.
They scored 60 points. So,
and they had to win. I mean, now say what you were.
Scoring a lot of points against Buffalo's defense didn't surprise me, but really the way Buffalo broke some plays and ran the ball.
Yes.
Kansas City, I mean, look out. Here comes another team that they run the ball better than Buffalo does. So is Kansas City going to figure out a way to slow down the Eagles in the running game? They better hope so.
Oh. 0 is the number for Kansas City giving up 100-yard running backs gaining 100-yard against them in the playoff Super Bowls in these past, I think it's 40 years.
One of the reasons they win.
0.
Win. Now that guy
This is a whole different animal.
pretty close the other day.
You brought up a great point the other day. Look at Barkley, man. He just wants to win. He blocks. He took that linebacker out, or maybe it was the safety that came up when Hurts scored his touchdown. He does it all. That guy's a brute. And, and we decided to keep Daniel Jones instead of him. There you go. There's a difference between GMs, You got smart guys and you got not so smart guys. But we're not going to make our picks, of course, till next week. But we're talking about them a little bit. And we're
Right now, I'm leaning Philly.
I see that. We got a pizza brewing. I think
You have to love Kansas City. I mean, you have to respect what they've done. I'm not minimizing the fact that obviously can they win this game? Of course they can. But I think they put the wrong favorite up there. I really do.
I think that maybe the odds makers were kind of afraid to make Kansas City another underdog.
You might have a good point.
But there's no movement, right? I haven't
Well,
seen
truth be told, if they had made the Eagles the favorite, then Kansas City would probably be getting slammed. Maybe not to the degree that they got bet last year, which at one point before the Super Bowl was insane. I mean, I don't think it was just 80%. I think it was above 80%, like climbing up towards 90% of the bets had been placed on the Chiefs last year. If anybody wants to contradict me on that, that's fine. Those were the numbers that I was seeing last year. I know it for a fact. This year, right? I mean, they're betting Kansas City right now, giving points to the Eagles. So if they were getting, maybe they'd be getting hammered by it.
What's the early percentages right now that you see?
Research.
Because earlier, I know it was Philly getting all the action.
No.
I saw minus.
At the very beginning, I was looking at it. It was more Kansas City than Philly.
Okay. All right.
At least on DraftKings. On DraftKings. I mean, I know they're not the only source, but, they have a lot of accounts. They have a lot of customers. So
right. Yes, they do.
If their numbers are real, which I kind of hope they are, although there's times I have my doubts. We are looking at still hanging tough at 1.5.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sucker's going to...
I saw it at -2 early at Hard Rock here in Florida. But it did change to -1.5 relatively quickly. So I had to act relatively fast on a cutter running.
They're showing, well, I'd say 60-40, but it's actually 59-41 at 1.5. That's Chiefs with the 59%. So that's pretty significant. And like you were just talking about, if they'd have made them the dog, whoa, you'd be at some heavy Chiefs action. Don't know about the money. I haven't seen that thing move at all. The first time I looked at it, it was 1.5. Still is.
Well,
they're slamming the over. But I did see something the other day. The first 6-digit bet placed at a Vegas sports book was $100,000 bet on under 49.5. So that might be one reason why what I'm showing here right now is 48.5. But yeah, somebody put $100,000 on under 49.5. But right now they're showing 82% of the bets on the over for the Super Bowl.
And as you've said, but
lately to that one, guys, because that's the best is in the league.
You've said, Daver, remember that the Sharpies play the totals, and the schluffs, the general public schluffs, play the number, so they pay attention to that a little bit. And a couple of great defenses will be stepping up. So That's an interesting bet. But that's the first 6-digit bet that I've heard of as well.
Right. But right now they're showing the public slamming the over, and this guy bet the under. So I don't know whether he's a sharp or I don't know. Generally speaking, early money on the Super Bowl is more of an educated bettor.
Right.
And the other guys come in, an hour.
Like me, when I fire, I get out the holster and start firing. Educated? I don't know. It's a flexible term. All right, buddy. We got some college hoops to talk about tomorrow. Big lineup for tomorrow. We're going to lead right into March Madness, and we're going to be very aggressive with college hoops starting next week. We could, expand this to 2 days a week, but we'll keep everybody posted. You've done very well in the past in March Madness, and that's documented with me and you, but we're going to share that with the general public. But first, can we touch upon a little kickball with a little soccer there? Going across.
Yeah, last week, we're not going to talk about last week. One of the games that I'm looking at for this week actually includes a team, Nottingham Forest, who are having a fantastic season. They're actually ahead of Man City in the standings right now. They are having a great season. Boy, last week they went into Bournemouth and they got their ass handed to them. I mean, that game was a blowout. Pretty much start to finish, and it was incredibly surprising. I mean, yes, Bournemouth was in good form, playing well, but so was Forest. And for Bournemouth to kick their ass the way they did, that was pretty impressive. I'm looking for Forest to kind of bounce back. Don't see any way they get humiliated at home, but they're playing Brighton, who is also one of the hotter teams in the league. And so I'm looking at the Nottingham Forest against Brighton Hove Albion. The Seagulls are coming into town, coming into the Forest. Watch out for Robin Hood. And I'm looking to be a closely played.
What's the mascot for Nottingham Forest? What's their name?
They're Foresters.
The Foresters, sorry. Okay. They're the Foresters.
They're the trees. They're like Stanford. Only they're just one tree. These guys are a whole bunch of trees.
Like the Cardinal. What's the Cardinal? It's a tree. Will you please?
There you go.
All right. The Stanford Cardinal.
And I got one other game.
Okay, bring it.
I'm looking at this game. It's the bottom feeders. It's the team struggling to stay in. Now, one of them is
stay in. They got something to play for. Not a grad pick.
I mean, Ipswich, if they were to stay in the Premier League, that matters. Quite an achievement because no, that's a different team. The Hatters are Luton Town. Ipswich are the two boys. Ipswich boys.
So those the names of the Premier League. They got some great names. Anyway, who are you looking at, laddie?
I just think that Ipswich has to win this game if they want to have any chance to stay out of the bottom three and get demoted again. They have to win this game. They're playing the worst team in the league. Southampton is really clearly worse. They're not getting out of the bottom. There's almost no way that they could get up to 17th and not be relegated. So I'm just looking at Ipswich. You're not going to get rich on this game. They're only plus 105, but they're at home. They've had unbelievable support from their fans, as all these teams do. Premier League, you don't pack them in. You really have to be playing badly and way below expectations. I mean, even right now, like as badly as Tottenham is playing, their games are sold out. I mean,
yep.
They get great crowd.
Everybody's drinking, singing, heave ho, here we go. They're right on.
A lot of thoughts about Ipswich. Any team that can do what they did, which has been double promoted back-to-back seasons. 2 years ago, they were in League One, which is the third level of English football. They've jumped up 2 levels. They're battling. They've had their moments this year. They've had a couple games where they got stomped, including a couple recently. But if they're going to have any chance of getting up to where they stay in the league for next season, they have to win this game at home. So they're plus 105. It's an opportunity. I looked at a minus a goal and a half. It's plus 270. It's tempting, but they score a lot. So there's a reason why it's plus 270 because A, they're not great, and B, they don't score a lot. So, I mean, if Southampton were to come out here and score the first goal in this game, Ipswich is going to have a hard time winning it. So it's up to them to get off to a good start, maybe get an early goal, but don't just try to hang on because that doesn't work, especially for the crappy teams. You got to get that second one in order to give yourself a little cushion. Then you put them to sleep. But I'm looking at Ipswich plus 105 against Southampton.
Okay, quick recap. Ipswich plus 105, and in the other game?
Nottingham Forest and Brighton draw plus 240.
Plus 240 is nice. Maybe combine those two, you get a nice parlay.
A nice little.
All right. That sounds muy bien. Let's go right to college hoops. We have a little, we're getting the lines, a little bit of a forecast of the lines, but we're going to be right on it. And we're talking about Saturday's card, which is loaded. And these games are important, obviously, for the March Madness seeds and the teams on the bubble. But some great games: Florida, Tennessee, NC against Duke, Creighton, Villanova, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, LSU. Michigan, Rutgers, UConn, Marquette. I'm loving it. And you are notoriously good in these games, especially March Madness, these big numbers. So I don't know if you want to get right into it, which I think we should. We're going to pick 5 games each pretty fast. And then this is our momentum building toward March Madness, which is going to be great. And we're really looking forward to that and really looking forward to making some money. We're studying it every night. I know you had a couple of 2 out of 3 in parlays last night. A tough one losing in overtime by the hook. Not easy when you're getting 8.5, but you managed that. But you did pick UCLA. You did pick Ohio State. You did pick Nebraska. And I was 1-1. I had Tulane, the Green Wave, couldn't hold on against Memphis State. But Ohio State, a walk in the park, obliterating.
Yeah, it was surprisingly easy because they're middle of the road Big Ten team, and so is Penn State. But Penn State was at home, and Ohio State seemed to, get them early and get them off. And one thing I really like about Ohio State when I've watched them play, they can shoot.
What's that? They shoot free throws. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's
fundamentals guy.
To relief. So many teams, it's like, my God, they're giving you points. You're not taking them. Even some of the good teams in the country, they don't shoot free throws well, but Ohio State does. It's like everybody on the floor can shoot free throws. So when they have the lead at the end, they're tough to take because they don't.
As a gambler, you'd like to see them concentrate on the fundamentals. But as we know, the highlight reels are all about dunks. And what's up? What's up with that? All right. Why don't you lead us off, bro? We got a ton of games.
You lead off? All right. I was hoping you would lead off.
I'll do it.
All right, go ahead.
I like big matchup. These guys are playing right around the corner from me. Florida, the Gators. They're playing in Tennessee. I'm going to take the 5. The forecast is between 4, 5, and 6. I think it's going to land around 5. If you can even get 4.5, 5, anything above that, take Florida. They're just as good as Tennessee. They play really good on the road. I think the teams are evenly matched. I don't think much of Tennessee. We were talking about them in the SEC. They're 4-4. Florida is 5-2 in the SEC, and Tennessee was number 1 just by default for a couple of weeks. I think this matchup is a great matchup for Florida, who's really tough on the boards. I say take the 5 against the Volunteers.
Well, no pizza on that game because I'm with you. Maybe it's time to get worried on that game. But and I always hesitate a little bit. I hesitate a little bit whenever it's like, oh, but they're a ranked team too. I'll tell you one reason why Tennessee's favored by a few points in this game and why they're one of the best teams in the country is this team plays really good defense.
Yeah.
Tennessee's got one of the best Ds in the country. We've already talked a little bit about Houston and how suffocating they can be. The other night, it ended up going overtime and it ended up being a relatively high scoring game. But when they needed it, their defense was all over those guys.
Yeah.
And
no, you've nailed the game for Houston's D. You nailed it. And they actually went.
And then they came back. Well, actually, that was 2 games ago because then the next game they came back and they.
And then they came back and went under it, just like you.
Their normal thing.
Yeah.
And they're under. Because they don't give anything up. They're amazing. Tennessee's not that far behind them. I'm telling you, Dave. Tennessee's got some D as well. Florida's gonna really have to be patient, make the extra pass, and make your shots. Because if you're not hitting your shots against Tennessee, you're in for a long game. That said, there are a lot of good things about Florida this season. They're really definitely a tournament contender. They could do it. Their point differential is huge. That's one thing that with Houston shutting down people the way they do, they have the highest point differential in the country. But Florida's up there too. Florida's close to 20 points a game on average, beating the snot out of the other guys. A
lot of that is at home.
Little suspects are up there, Duke, Houston, but Florida really close to 20 points a game. Field goal percentage differential is enormous. Their field goal percentage is 9 percentage points higher than their opponents. You're gonna win a lot of games with that alone. The refs could be calling fouls on you all night long, but if you're hitting it 9% better from the field, and you can shoot your 3-pointers at all, which is another thing that they're pretty good at.
And a good rebounding team, Florida. But we know in the SEC, very difficult to win on the road. Whether they can hang around.
Of the top teams in the country, you're right on the money with that rebounding edge. Florida's right up there. I know Illinois is really good.
Yeah.
Really good on the boards. They get a lot of offensive rebounds, but they miss too many shots. But
tell me about it.
Yeah, the Florida with the rebounding edge is startling. It's actually their rebounding edge is a lot better than Houston's, but Houston doesn't have to worry about it too much. They're very
great. Perimeter D, Houston. Okay, so we're both on board with Florida at +5. So
yeah, 6 between 3 and 6. Anything under 3, and I don't think it's under 3. I think it's going to be right in there 4, 5. You're right. Yeah. So Florida plus the points. Oh, and we have to tell everybody we're basing this based upon power rankings, taking certain things into account, strength of schedule, the strength of the team overall, what they've been doing, their performance, their recent form, all predicated upon, and we want to be as accurate as possible. It's very tricky with college basketball. I mean, you get guys, somebody gets sick for Saturday's game. It might be a different story, but we're going to try to home in on the point spread as close as we can.
Right.
Even though the games are tomorrow, nothing's posted yet, and
which won't be the case when these tournaments start, especially March Madness. We'll have a little, a few days ahead of time to look at these spreads. But in some cases,
only if we get Thursday, Friday games. You won't know who's playing on Saturday.
That's right. You got it right. So what am I saying? I'm saying we'll keep you posted. We'll keep you updated, and keep watching.
We're also going to try to pinpoint where the line's going to be, so that if it's dramatically higher or lower, well, then you might want to take it that team that's either getting more points than they should or laying less points than they should, depending on who you like.
Yeah. We're handicapping and analyzing. David, give me your second pick.
No, it's you, because you picked that, and that was my first pick too. So you got to go again.
All right. The number one team in the country, very surprising, but gets a lot of press down here, is Auburn. Ole Miss has been stumbling a little bit, but they hang around and they're tough at home. I think Auburn's going to bounce a little bit. They've had a couple of great road victories. I think they just skip a beat here. I like Ole Miss at home. I think you're going to get more than 5 points. I think it's going to be 5.5. Ole Miss hosting number one Auburn. I'm going to take the 5.5. I'm going to take the dog here.
All right. Good luck on that one. I found that to be a very tough game to handicap. What are you looking at the line on that one? Real quick, because we got to step on it here a little bit.
I got 5.5.
Okay. All right. My next game is the battle for the state of Arizona. It is Arizona traveling to Arizona State, and I am going to take the home dog. If anybody saw the Arizona game the other night, they got out of that Iowa State game on their home court with a miracle shot, with a miracle. I don't know what it was. What were we going to say? 60% of the court. It was past half court,
and it was guarded 3/4. Me having the cycle, girl. I watched as it arced, and then my money.
That was something else.
Yeah.
It sent their fans into a frenzy, and I'm hoping that the Sun Devil fans can go into a frenzy when they take their Tucson neighbors down at home. I'm looking at a line somewhere in between, like maybe 5 or 8 points. The higher, the better. I'm taking.
I still stick to the half. I would limit it.
My old horse racing handicapping buddy Bobby Hurley at the reins. I wish him luck, and I'm taking Arizona State plus the points against Arizona.
All right, let's keep it rolling. I'm going to go with the Jesuits up there, just in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for a couple of shorty paps. I like Marquette. Looking at the line, maybe a -3.5. I'm hoping, but it could be -4. UConn's not as strong as they were these past years. They got a couple holes, especially on defense. This is a big game for Marquette. They got a chip on their shoulder. They had a couple rough spots lately, but I like the Warriors at home. Marquette -4 against UConn.
Not so fast, my friend. Pizza time. I'm going with the locals. I'm going with my friends up the road. I'm going with the other Hurley coach. I'm visiting the UConn Huskies. I was thinking this line might be as low as like a 2.5, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. I'm seeing better things from UConn lately. I know they started off the season a little rough, but that was to be anticipated. A little bit of turnover from the last 2 seasons, which couldn't have ended any better. And I think he's getting them into shape. A little bit of a tournament run. Hey, with him as a coach and with him recruiting, and that team is going to be dangerous every year.
You're never out of it.
Marquette's going to have to play their best game to beat them, but they are at home, and I like Marquette. Like Marquette quite a bit. I tell you, it's a good game to watch, and I'm going to take the Huskies in that one for the pizza.
All right, put a pizza up and send cheers. Ask again. All right, I'm rolling on. Cheers, cheers, cheers for old Notre Dame. They didn't win the college championship, but I think they could win this game. Notre Dame -2.5 going to Miami, who is terrible.
Miami's terrible.
Terrible. I mean, they might as well try to get the women's team on there with those twins. So whatever was the OnlyFans twins. Excuse me, I'm not
And Miami's had some decent basketball teams in recent years.
What happened?
I don't know. This year is not one of those years.
Their program is in the toilet. Anyway, the Irish is going down there. They're not good either, but they're
They're in the back either.
Yeah. Lay the 2.5, lay the points, take ND. That's my third pick.
Okay.
Fourth pick. Sorry.
All right. I am up, and I am looking at, we're going back to the Midwest. We're going back to the Big Ten, which has 18 teams in it. And I am looking at a small home team dog against a ranked team. I am taking Northwestern anywhere. I'd say this game could be anywhere from it could be a pick-up, really, Northwestern at home, but they'll probably make people lay a few points with Wisconsin, so maybe up there. I'm hoping for 3. Anyway, I'm going to take Northwestern at home against Wisconsin.
He's a tough. Yeah, the Big Ten's just like the SEC. I mean, and the Big 12. It's hard. It's hard.
Oh, it's real hard. I mean, you got to, when you go into Northwestern, you're going up against Doug Collins and the team. They got some players, man. See, they got some guards who can shoot the ball.
Hey, look at Nebraska last night. I mean, they're tough. They got it done in OT. No, this Big Ten is a lot of fun to watch, and that's why we're picking these games. Yeah. They're entertaining. These kids with it all. The place is going nuts. The fever. We're getting the fever.
All right, so that's my 4th pick. Okay, so who's your last?
My last, going back to the SEC, I like Missouri on the road, getting 5.5 against a very difficult Mississippi State team. Very, very, very tough this year.
Well, it's the
Hard-nosed to them. Yeah, they're playing really well. But Missouri
had the lead. The guy misses a layup, dunk, whatever you want to call it, with 30 seconds left in the game. I don't know how the guy missed. I really don't. He was
just decided not to dunk at the last minute.
And then he put it off the glass and it loft, and it was just a nightmare. And then they ended up losing the game. But they played Bama very tough. But yeah, that game was they're home in this game.
Missouri's on the road against Mississippi State. And Mississippi State is pretty hefty favorite. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was looking at Missouri too, but that's not mine. I am going to look at the big game. Well, I think it's lost a little bit of its luster over the years, but Duke's right at the top of the table in college basketball. Lost it. I'm going with the old theory of throw the records out the window. I know Duke's at home. They've been really tough, and they've been smashing people. Carolina gets their game face on, goes in there with Hubert, and they hang in there. What are we looking at? Like maybe 12 to 15 points, I think. Oh, well, it could be a little bit just because it is Duke, North Carolina. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going with the Tar Heels. Well, never take. Not a big Tar Heels fan in general. But I'm going to take the big points and just hope that a rivalry game lends itself to being a rivalry game and they don't embarrass themselves. Hang in there and play a good game. So that's it for me. That's my life.
All right, guys. Well, we're heating up with college basketball. We've just started, but we started with a flurry. We got 5 games each here. A pizza on the line in one, and we're agreeing.
We're agreeing on one, and we have a pizza on one.
Okay.